was born under an evil star, and one so born becomes, they say, the eater of his mother. Thou must devour me first, or I myself shall eat thee up. One or the other it must be. I shall besmear my hands with black, and with black my face. With black I shall besmear the whole of my body. And when death seizes me, with black I shall besmear his face. O mother, I shall eat thee up, but not digest thee. I shall install thee in my heart, and make thee offerings with my mind. You may say that by eating Kali I shall embroil myself with Kala, her husband, but I am not afraid. Braving his anger, I shall chant my mother's name, to show the world that Ram Prasad is Kali's rightful son. Come.
Om Sarva Mangal Mangalye Shive Sarva Sadhike Sharnya Trambike Gauri Narayani Namostute Shistiti Sivinashanam Shakti Bhute Sanatani Gunashraye Gunemai Narayani Namostute Sarva Swarupe Sarvishe Sarva Shakti Samanvite Bhayajastra Hino Devi Durge Devi Namostute Jaya Narayani Namostute, Jaya Narayani Namostute, Jaya Narayani Namostute. Om Devim Prasanam Pranatarti Hantrim, Yogindra Pujam Jugadharma Patrim, Tam Sharadam Bhakti Vigyana Datrim, Daya Swarupam, Pranamami Nityam. Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. O Sharda, propitious goddess, killer of misery and souls resigned, savior of religion in every age, by saints and sages worshipped, O mother kind, give us love and wisdom, thou, O grace incarnate, to thee we bow. Om peace, peace, peace. Om Sahana, Om Sahana, Sahanau Bhunaktu, Saha Viryam Karavavahai, Tejasvi Navaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May Brahman, the reality, protect us. May Brahman sustain us. May Brahman illumine our thinking process. May we not find fault with each other, with the world, or with the teachings. And may what we study be a source of inspiration to us eternally. Om peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, may peace be unto all. Om Hari Om. Welcome here to our class in Portland, Oregon at SRV Associations in the midst of Navaratri, the 9 days and 9 nights of worship of Mother Durga. And our puja here in Portland will be tonight, a 2.5 to 3 hour affair that will include offering flowers and incense and mantras, yantras, all in Tantra. And basically with the worship of her august form and her abundant wisdom in mind, which we celebrate here as often as we can in SRV classes in Portland, in San Francisco, and in Hawaii, and which are now live streamed. We welcome our live stream audience and all of you at home and abroad. And we will have a series of 4 classes over the next 2 weekends. This weekend we'll concentrate on Divine Mother, teachings taken mostly from the Srimad Devi Bhagavatam, which is one of the 2 quintessential mother scriptures of the world. In India, Mother has her own whole religion, and even beyond that, permeates all other religions. The great Advaitins worship her, like Shankara and Gaudapada. The Vaishnavas worship her as Radha and Sita. And, of course, Ganapati, the elephant-headed god, is one of her devout servants. So wherever you look, Ashtaka, Nashtaka, Tantra, Vedanta, Yoga, Samkhya, you'll find this great mother principle worshipped, called Shakti, at the foundation of everything. And no different in the darshana that has visited the West here in the form of Vedanta and yoga too, because Patanjali spoke of her as the Chit Shakti, the very power of our intelligence that reveals things. She gives the sun its moment of glory, shining in the night skies, all the billions of suns there. One of them that they've discovered recently that takes 1,100 years to go around by jet. 1,100 years. That's a big body of matter. So that shining inherent in the sun is given by the Divine Mother's wisdom and by her as the Shakti power in everything, like water in its wetness, heat in its fire, and so forth, as Sri Ramakrishna has said. And we are just coming off a Divine Mother retreat to her that was held at Windwood Waters. That's 3 of the Mahabhutas, by the way: wind, air, that is, and wood, earth, and water. And so even those places that we frequent to go into retreat on her are reminiscent of her 5 great elements and of the 5 senses that connect with them: earth with smell, water with taste, fire with sight, touch with hearing, and ether. Touch with air, and and ether with hearing. The subtlest element in all is ether, and the subtlest sense that connects is also connected to it. See? Ether and hearing, or the vibrations that pass across the ethers, not only the external ether, but the internal ethers that we've studied about, called akashas. All of those things are included in her in a sort of pancha prakarana trickle-down effect, as we've seen. All these 5 sets of 5s that go on. And that fivefold mind that gives rise to it too, and the intelligence in it is also hers. So in our retreat at Windwood Waters, we studied very deeply in the tradition, and we basically started out with this chart on my right that I constructed for purposes of that retreat so that we could look into everything that was hers, everything that is hers. And so I'm also using that today, but I invite all those who are at the retreat to, and since Pancha Prakarana is the fivefold process, then I'll give you a nickel for each one of the aspects of Mother's wisdom that you find there that wasn't there when you first saw this chart at the retreat. In other words, there's been about 10, 2 times 5, 10 more aspects or areas of her wisdom that have been added to this chart since you've all seen it. And so it's a work in progress. I've also still got 2 more that I'm considering adding. I hope it just doesn't crowd her out of the picture. Because that's quite often what happens. These 5s are a part of her Maya, and Maya is, of course, imbued with covering power and also distorting power. We hope to look at that later. So, in other words, people get rather enchanted with the appearance of all her aspects. Those who don't believe in her or don't see her, don't know the Shakti, will not know about her divine forms, many arms and so forth, various aspects that she takes on, the goddess with many names. But others will become enchanted with the outer spectacle, like the forests and trees and mountains and everything on this one planet called Earth, everything that has to do with external matter or manifested nature. Manifested Prakriti is called in Sankhya. And the unmanifested will remain unseen or unthought. But even beyond the unmanifested and manifested is the supreme Shakti, Mahashakti or Mahamaya, that of course is the basis for the vision that all the yogis and rishis are trying to gain of her. When she makes an appearance here on earth or on the battlefield of relativity, she always is announced by the fourfold Brahma, Lord Brahma, chanting the 4 Vedas. So this already in the scriptures bespeaks of how all wisdom is hers, all the wisdom that's contained in the Vedas and in other scriptures too, whether orthodox or unorthodox. For instance, Buddhism is really quite one with Vedanta, I feel, and Swami Vivekananda felt the same way. But it's considered Nastika, an unorthodox Indian darshana, because he didn't necessarily base his whole religion on the 4 Vedas. But nonetheless, you'll see in the Buddhist scriptures many of the teachings about the mother of the Buddhas, the Dakinis and Sakinis and the Pragyaparamita and other examples of mother wisdom imbuing even that very non-dual leaning philosophy or darshana of Buddhism. So if even the Advaitists and great beings, of course, like Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, were all endeared of her, enamored of her, then how much more should we take the time to look into her and her wisdom. And the external part of her wisdom is also worthy of meditating upon. That is, if we can take the earth with its 5 elements, as Lord Kapila told us, all and the 5 senses, and learn that we have 5 subtle senses and 5 subtle elements inside in dream state tonight or in heaven, then we can begin to formulate a regimen of meditation around them so that they don't just become something divorced from reality, but they're connected to reality. And we escape the problem of materialism and ignorance. We also escape the more subtle problem of having to renounce the world and seeing it as illusion. Because if you connect it, then you see how it's all a manifestation of Brahman. The ancient rishis weren't given a lot to the Maya principle. They were more into the idea of calling form Saguna Brahman, God with attributes, and formlessness Nirguna Brahman. And you'll see that right away at the pillars here of this chart, Nirguna and Saguna. Those are 2 sides to her. You might say Brahman and Shakti itself, the absolute and the dynamic power of the absolute. So even before you get there, there's all this relative spill, you see, that's just come out of the ocean of Brahman, out of her, out of the word, if you would prefer. philosophically speaking, and manifested itself at so many levels and in so many ways that they're really impossible to count. So we could go on looking at this chart and adding to it till nothing but white. White was left, really. And that would sort of be an interesting experiment, because then we'd know that everything is filled with light, or that Maya is covering everything, whichever way you want to look at it. So the difference here that I'm bringing forth is that we must study it. We must study it. As far as Maya goes, we must study it at a distance. We must not embroil ourselves in it and then expect to see the truth of anything, because as even our most intellectual contemporary peoples are showing today, they're getting quite enchanted and hypnotized, as it were, with matter and forgetting the underlying foundation behind it. And so that people are born into families now without any knowledge of Brahman whatsoever, forgetful of their true nature. And Buddha says that that's, of course, and Vedanta agrees that that's, of course, the cause of suffering. Avidya, it's called. Avidya means forgetfulness of one's true nature. It doesn't mean ignorance of facts and numbers and being worldly wise and so forth, although that contributes to it. So again, what I'm proposing is that we take everything that has spilled out of divine reality and all the way down to the element earth and begin to study it. Study it from a distance means that we would look at the 5 elements, earth, fire, water, air, and ether, from the standpoint of their connection to our senses, and then our senses to our mind, and our mind to our intelligence, and our intelligence to the word, or to the great mind, and then the great mind to the word. So this is all an involution process. That's one way of calling it. Another way of calling it is the dissolution process of the mind stream back to its source. First, you would sort of have to agree with us that everything is a projection of mind, which means you would have to get a different view, 2% shift of your attitude and view away from ideologies like 7-day creation theory and 4,320,000,000 year evolutionary theory, for a second at least, and take on this idea that maybe everything is just projected by mind and senses, because mind and senses are, when they're engaged, is called the waking state, and when they're disengaged, called the deep sleep state. Form goes away. So this disappearance of form in deep sleep is one of the great mysteries that the Advaitists, especially around 700 AD and so, started studying very deeply and coming up with a whole new system of mother wisdom, your waking, dreaming, deep sleep state and what's beyond it, and began to study their own consciousness as how it appears, how it disappears, how it mixes itself with matter, which was always one of the problems that Tantra and Yoga considered. For Vedanta and Buddhism, it's quite an easy thing to say avidya, forgetfulness of your true nature, but if you're talking about centuries and centuries, even millennia of that forgetfulness, by piling more gloom on gloom, it's just heaped on top of each other for so many millennia, then you have systems that come along and say it's time to do a practice. Extremely pure is the Vedantic and Buddhist view, and mixed pure and impure is the yogic and tantric view, basically because they want you to do a sadhana, and sadhana is not pure. Sadhana is a means to an end. Your true nature is always pure. If you have to do a practice and you've forgotten your true nature, then, as my teacher used to say, if we knew who we are, we wouldn't have to do practice. But he's saying that in the midst of millions of people in the contemporary age that have forgotten themselves and are taking the unreal to be the real, which was Vedanta's very first no-no. Brahman Satya Jagat Mithya, or if you would put it in other ways, the world is unreal and Brahman is the only reality. So with that rule of thumb, which you should never forget if you enter into yogic practice or tantric disciplines, that should be your first axiom. always that you hold in front of yourself as you do practice, then you can study these things at different levels of involvement. So to study her outer show, this Maya, which is probably more accurate to say is your outer show. It's not really her outer show. She only makes things available for masses of minds to do what they will with it. So when you come that far down from reality, then you're at the realm of solidity and liquidity, and where things congeal, where thoughts congeal into objects, as Holy Mother said. Then it's pretty much your doing, and she only winked at you from a distance and said, okay, if you're going down there, just don't forget who you are and where you came from, but I really can't venture there, which is why you never see her here. You see some of her emissaries come here, and they themselves have to be very great lights in order to burn through this darkness that is here, the darkness of density, the darkness of gravity, the darkness of weight, the darkness of transgression, of sin, and of forgetfulness. That becomes habitual, as Ramakrishna said, and it then becomes what's called worldliness. And in that worldliness, people, the third eye is completely closed, and they're only thinking twos. You see, the oneness is gone, the two-ness comes and takes over, and we see the results of that everywhere as we go around the world. Those of us who are sensitive and still trying to hold the light in the darkness see examples of that everywhere, and even more so now with the advent of media and computers and newspapers and TV and so forth. You don't have to go anywhere to look for these sensations. They are happening everywhere, and you can see them right in your own home if you wish. I don't happen to do that at my home. I have no TV on, but I want to follow my teacher's words. He used to say, I said God vision, not television. So he wanted you to open up that inner life that Christ wanted for the fishermen along the river. Get an inner life and start looking at the eternal life and bring it back. Vivekananda then would come full circle and say, then bring it back into everyday life and make it manifest in everything that you see, taste, touch, hear, and smell, for instance, for your five senses. And so you're going to have to deify objects, and you're going to have to deify elements, and you're going to have to deify deities. That's what they're there for, not just to put on yourself and show to your friends, oh, I got that in China, or I got that in India. See, like some sort of memorabilia, see. But if you bought a sacred image, then you put it in a sacred place and deify it and offer flowers and incense. And that's an outer puja. And you're deifying the external, which has come from the internal. And that's just a way of remembering. See, even at the beginning, at the start, it's just a way of beginning that all things have come from divine reality. And that's a pathway for you to follow, to open up again. It's a nadi, N-A-D-I. That is a channel, subtle channel that you open up. And there are many hundreds and thousands of those channels in you, and not only just in your physical body as nerves, or in the matter as canyons and trees and other channels that are conducting energy, but there are channels in your mind too, and those are the ones that, if they close, give you a stunted or a restricted view of reality as it manifests here in the Saguna Brahma area and form. You're not seeing its connection or its being a signpost pointing back inside of you to the kingdoms of heaven within. So at this retreat then, we looked at some of these. Like I said, I added about 10 more here, and some more may get added as she begins to, all of this inner wisdom begins to manifest. She says here in the Devi Bhagavatam herself, when everything melts away, It is then that pralaya comes. Pralaya means dissolution of all objects, not only solid objects, but objects in the mind, thought objects. Those also dissolve. So it's sort of like deep sleep tonight again. At that time, I abide with Brahman, latent in it. So we see the truth of Ramakrishna's saying then, Brahman and Shakti are one. When the worlds are projected again in a new cycle, I become Shri, that's abundance, Buddhi, that's intelligence, Dritti, stability, Smriti, memory, Shradini, faith, Medha, intelligence, Daya, compassion, Lajja, Kshuddha, Trishna, Kshama, Akshama, Nidra, Tandra, Jara, Vidya, Avidya, Shakti, Ashakti. She can even become the opposite of herself. If she's Shakti power, she can also turn around and turn the power off. It's like a light switch. She's like you going into deep sleep again. I also become Para, Pashanti, Madhyama, and Vaikari. And those of you who are at the retreat probably remember what those are about. See, she's those four main aspects of Kundalini Shakti. And I flow through 35 million nadis located in the sacred human form. So the human form contains all of those as a template, sort of, and then the human form dissolves into the subtle body, which is your mental body, and that contains hundreds and thousands of more subtle nerves, and that dissolves into the causal body, where all pathways sort of merge. As you're saying here, everything melts away. So that's how everything melts away back into your own consciousness. That's called samadhi. You may be having samadhi every night and not knowing it, because your consciousness isn't following the trail consciously. So how do we make our dream state lucid? By making our waking state lucid. We practice sadhana in our awake state, and we just destroy obstacles, obstructions, and open up those nadis again. They're like trails that need to be blazed again, because the weeds of thought and karma and samskara and other worse things have come back and cluttered the path. So that's why we had that quote at the retreat saying, this set of fives, panchakarna, you see, as it comes down, thickens everything. And if you know that everything is spilled out in sets of fives, quintuplication process it's called, panchakarna, if you know that, then you have a machete. That knowledge is a machete, and you can cut through that jungle and open up these pathways again. You think it has to be done physically only? That's our mistake, you see, is that we can go on physical austerities or climb mountains or dive deep into oceans or cross deserts without water. A human being, a physical body alone, can do so many things as it clings to life and survives. But the other clearing or cleansing that needs to be done is very simple, and you just do it in your head and get it done with, because it's only a part of the package, seeing through the exterior Maya. That should have never happened in the first place, that the Maya ever got so thick that you couldn't see through it. That wasn't intended by her. That's why I say it's really not her worlds. They say, oh, it's her worlds, so forth. It's really people's worlds that they've used her Shakti power, which is pure and sort of. So when you see a Sri Ramakrishna come into this world, he's not really seeing a world. He's seeing Shakti everywhere. He's seeing Brahman. When he sees the English building ships, in the 1800s for war, and he says, "Oh, that's Shakti power." See, for other people, it's just wood and nails and domination. You see, whatever they can do with the materials that Mother has provided, called Drovya. It's one of her arms. So she'll provide the substances through her Maya, and mind will take it and do what it will with it. And Gaudapada is very famous in his Nondual Karika for for telling you how many ways people take the Atman and render it into other things. But those who love God first and foremost, and love their neighbors themselves and so forth, they will keep that Atman pure, you see. And they will do everything from consciousness, not from unconsciousness. So if I were to give you a grand tour, you see, of Mother's form, at all three of those levels, the manifested, which is dense, the unmanifested, which is subtle, and the supremely unmanifested, which is causal and beyond, then you'd be talking about the three worlds, and you'd start the journey saying, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Durga, Durga, Durga would work. You get her attention right away. But basically, maybe she won't hear you. You say that from the three worlds. You have to get beyond the three worlds and say it. So peace, 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 or Shanti, 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 is a good way to start your journey. So let me, for the sake of those who weren't at the retreat, and for the sake of the live streaming audience, and for the sake of those who were at the retreat who didn't see these 10 editions yet, show you what's happening here as Mother manifests herself before us. She says there in her quote, "It is then that Pralaya comes, and at that time I am one with Brahman." So Brahman is the very crown, the Sahasrara chakra, the very ultimate consciousness, which is the formless reality out of which everything springs. However, don't think that Brahman can be the cause of this world. You cannot turn Brahman into a cause, because Brahman can never become a form, number one, and Brahman can never change its nature, which is formless, number two. So keep Brahman pure, sacrosanct, one, indivisible, so forth and so on, birthless, deathless, transformationless. Make sure you know those Advaitic rules, and then put that in your wearing cloth, as Sri Ramakrishna told Swami Vivekananda, and start your journey. And I read at the retreat the dissolution of the mind stream meditation for all of you out of the new book that's going to be out within the next couple of weeks. And we all did a guided meditation with that. But this was a reconstruction of the mind stream. We started out with Brahman, and then we came out through one of the petals of the third eye and saw the Mahat, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, and paid our obeisances to them, because they are pretty much the gods, the main gods of the whole process, and under her auspice, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. And then from there we trickled down into mind and so forth and so on, right on down to the fetus, where we saw ourselves take our birth. We see ourselves take birth every time, and then we forget that we made the choice. We forget the choices we made, and then we blame God or blame the devil for it, and we're already in ignorance up to our necks, you see, thinking wrong. And then someone has to come along, take the trouble to take a form like Sri Ramakrishna and tell you, "Oh, no, that's all you're doing, my dear. Here, I'll show you a way out." He's an exemplar, not a savior. He'll save you if he has to, but as Swami Vivekananda said, I wouldn't want anyone to shed their blood for my sins. I would want to take on my own karma, neutralize it myself, and become free, and not trouble anyone else, if I were to make that kind of nest for myself. You make that bed that you sleep in. So hopefully that bed you sleep in will be a bed of Mother's doing. You see, those flowers around here are lokas that have been offered to her feet, are worlds. And there are many hundreds and thousands of those, just as there are many hundred thousands of nadis leading to them and away from them. Those are subtle channels, and this is esoteric knowledge of the most inscrutable type. It cannot be experienced out here with the external senses and so forth, so it might as well not exist to people. But air doesn't, and ether doesn't exist out here either, to my sight, and they still exist to me. They have to, because I'm breathing it and living in it, space and air. So things that we can't see are still maybe even more real, you see, more credible, and should be looked at in that way as we examine them. So Brahman is there at her crown, and then you see Om and Hrim. I put up this chart so we can look at the 4 stages of the word later. But there you see on either side of her those two great bijams. Om really is the bijam for Brahman, the formless reality. That's Brahman's word. And every great being, and every being who has gone inward deep enough to find the truth will find Om, find the word. And it's mentioned in 7 or 8 different religious traditions. And so is the third eye associated with it, with its highest level. Hrim on the other side with the half moon there reminds us of Shiva, reminds us of Kali, reminds us of the bijam of power. That's really Shakti's word, Hrim. So Om Hrim, you put them together and it's very powerful, like we were singing at the retreat, right? Om Aim Hrim Shrim Krim Krim Devim Mahadevi Paramam. Klim Krim Devim Mahadevi Nama Om. We're singing that beautiful stotram that has Om, Aim, Hrim, Krim, Klim, Shrim. Might as well put Hum, Fat, Swaha, and all other great words in there if you could get them all in one breath and learn the tongue twister, and master it. So all of these great bijams are there, and Om and Hrim really kind of head the top of the list, because that everything will proceed from the word. Everything needs a word of power to initiate it, to set it into operation, to make it start rolling. Just like you would give a snowball a push down a hill, and it would start turning into a huge ball as it gathers. And that's how you would make your big snowman at Christmas, you see. Just like that, it's always a matter of accretion, you see. And when she's involved, a matter of amelioration. Accretion and amelioration, that is, things that grow in goodness, in sattva, in higher consciousness. And then they get dissolved with the hot noonday sun, you see. They just go back to their true state again. And that happens all the time and eternally. Krishna says, where's the grief in this? No grief in this. It's just rising and falling of something that's eternal as it plays with forms of itself. So she's the revealer of that kind of secret. So right at the top, Brahman, Om, and Hrim. Then you see there, around her crest jewels, Viveka and Vairagya. Those weren't there at the retreat. For those of you who saw this chart and went through it with me, these are crest jewels. See, there's the crest and the jewels, and we know any good crest jewel in our tradition is Viveka, because we see Swami Vivekananda, we see the Viveka Chudamani, and so forth and so on. That's a real word of power in Sanskrit. If falls just below a bijam. So, if he took his name based on Viveka, then we know how important it is, or how important he thought it would be for us to concentrate on such a word and put it into action. He was calling himself Swami Satchidananda while he was wandering in India before anyone knew him outside of Bengal. But then, before he came to the West, to the Parliament of Religions, he took that name Vivekananda, as if he looked at all of us and said, oh, I think I know what they need here. They need to discriminate between the real and the unreal, because it's been 2,000 years since Christ told them separate the wheat from the chaff. So we better bring that back. It shouldn't have ever gotten forgotten in the first place. So Viveka and then Vairagya. Once you know the difference, make sure you take the second step. You may take the first step. You may take the second step. See, that's not only the Hindu wedding that Gandhi described, but it's the Sufi way of getting initiated. You take some number of steps in order to get your full initiation, and you have to concentrate on each one of them as you step inside. So the second step in this process, called the 4 treasures and the 6 jewels, Sat Sampat, they call it Shat Sampat. In fact, that's been added in too now, along with Purushartas. See, those are 2 more additions. Shat Sampat meaning the sixfold wealth, it really means, or 6 jewels, and Purusharta meaning the 4 fruits of life, which is an ancient mother teaching that includes everything, the world and enlightenment in one fell swoop. You could just take the Purusharthas and say, okay, I will learn the Dharma. See? That's been put in too, right there on the conch shell. I will hear the Dharma, and I will earn my wealth legitimately, satisfy my desires that are legitimate desires, and I will get moksha. Dharma, kama, artha, and moksha. If you even took that one fourfold teaching and just made it your own, you see, that would be a system that you would get free with. Because pretty much all of these include all the rest in them. If you have a particularly nasty problem that's societal, that's collective mind, then you probably want to go right to something like Viveka and start to clarify. Like a loom thrown in murky water, immediately come clear. You need something really powerful like that. But for individuals, then pretty much once you're free, you can, or once you've gotten rid of ignorance at least, you can begin to walk the path along many different nadis. You just take your pick. This is the opening of the worlds within you. This is the kingdoms of heaven within you aren't heaven as we think of it, pleasure, ancestors, whatever, but actually heaven in that regard means this living in an ocean of light that has solidified itself only so far, not down to the object yet, but down to the thought. So you're living in a realm of thoughts, just like a pundit does, or a Gyani does, or any great being. They pretty much live in their head, and the outside, is only becomes just an expression of that. Everything they have is within them. They're satisfied. That's called contentment. It's one of these words up here. She said, "I am contentment." You see. So Viveka Vairagya, and then of course we know Shat Sampati comes next, the sixfold wealth, and finally Mumukshutvam, the desire for freedom. Now, if you come further down, you see what we mentioned already, the two kinds of samadhi, the formless samadhi, nirvikalpa, and samadhi with form, savikalpa. Pretty much this side of her right side, has to go more towards Brahmagyan and formlessness. And this side of her goes more towards Prema Bhakti, love, devotion, compassion, and so forth. All knowing that you're never born in the first place. This is all has to do with birth, and this has to do with never being born. And so even when you go into the side of love, you have to take with you these axioms of these pillars, you see, of ajativada and aparinama. Know that transformation is not real, and birth and death is not real. That you are always birthless, deathless, and transformationless. And if you hold on to those two pillars, you might as well have her feet called Devi Padam. See? Remember we sang that song too when we started at retreat, Devi Padam, which has several beautiful verses to it, which one of them says, Sarva Jnana Shakti Mahakundalini Jivatma Param Atma Dharini Shri Devi Rudrani Kalaratri Devi Vijaya Avijaya Devi Maheshani Shri Yogamai Chit Shakti Devi Jaya Vijaya Devi Vasundari Shri Mantra Shanti Mata Deva Devi Dasa Tattva Devi Shakti Darshini Shri Devi Padam Shri Devi Padam Shri Devi Padam Shri Devi Padam. So many of her names flow out. Not just names for elements and names for senses and names for philosophical principles, but names for her. She has hundreds and thousands of names. Might as well assign them to those nadis you're going along. Is there like a sort of a street sign? Oh, what nadi is this? There's so many, I've lost track. Oh, I see, that's the Sarvajnana nadi. And I'm just coasting along inside, you see. So her name and her form is very important. See, here's the definition for Maya. Nama Rupa Desha Kala Nimitta. That's how Swami Vivekananda would define Maya. Name, form, space, time, and causality or karma. If you're noticing those around you, then you should look back to things like Viveka and a Parinama and a Jativada and make sure you have those pillars tight. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, if a child holds tight to the pole as he swings around, he has lots of fun at recess, you see. But if he loses his grip, he falls and skins his knee, goes home crying to mommy, you see, to the divine mommy. So hold on to those pillars. That's what they're for. They're steady, stable, unmoving, fully reliable. Everything else in the world isn't, you might have noticed. Everything will pass, as they say. But those philosophical principles that are sunk into the very mud of relativity, like a pylon into a riverbed. I drove across the New Bay Bridge recently and was looking at how deep they had to drive those pillars down into the mud. So just like that, and Sri Ramakrishna also says like a lotus, whose stalk and roots goes deep into the mud, and it's out there in the sunshine, its head, you see. So in that way, all of these levels, the mud of gross matter and the water of relativity and the air of pure conscious awareness and the sunlight of non-dual reality, all those things are represented by a lotus. You don't just say, oh, I'm going into meditation and samadhi looking at the lotus, but I don't even know what the lotus means yet, you see. Find out the meaning, and that's what words like Om and Hrim and so forth are all about. Unfortunately, and as I've said many times before, we don't have words that are spiritual in nature in English. Very few. Words like eternity and so forth, or sublimation. We look for some really good words. Most of them have, of course, European roots or even Greek and Roman roots, but basically some of these very purely spiritual principles are just words in Sanskrit that you're going to have to just decide on. I guess I'll use that, you see. If I want a sort of overall term for everything that troubles me, then I'll just say Maya. Oh, I see. That's what's been troubling me. I found that word when I was 19, and everything got clear for me. It was like a loom in water. I was, oh, that's why I'm suffering, you see, because I'm taking all of this to be real, and a whole race says so. One of the most ancient races, if not the most ancient race, and one that started out worshipping statues, you see, along a sacred river, and deifying things and practicing deification. The Vedas were all about 4 things, right? Basically, they were first about worship, ritual, tons of rituals. You can't put them all in English. There'd be no way that we could, even in a lifetime, learn all those rituals. And then after that, it was hymns that went with the rituals, and mantras and so forth like that, you see. And then after that it was forest dwelling, see. So now that we've done this, let's sit back and see the effect of it. See. Let's see if our worship reached God, or any level of the gods that are there, and see if they're clearing my path, you see, all the way up to Brahman, all the way up to her. And then finally the Upanishads. So even India's ancient scriptures, you see, started out and evolved inward like that, involved towards back to the source. You find yourself out here, then you take account of what it is, name, form, time, space, and causality, and one by one you begin to renounce them. See, you begin to give them up, detach yourself from them. And as you do, you'll be detaching yourself from earth, air, fire, water, and ether, which you, with your mind and senses, help solidify. And then you attach to them. And then you wouldn't let them go at death. So the 5th and lowest hell in our tradition is called abhinivesha, clinging to life. Or if you put it adversely or conversely, fear of death. So give it up. And if you don't shake them up, O wisdom mother, strip from them this Maya cover, as one poet said. She will shake things up. Her arms are powerful enough to do that. So I always give away things that are coming. You see, I want to go through everything nice and systematically, but it takes me along other nadis, you see, and I have to start connecting. But we were at Nirvikalpa and Savikalpa. That is, kalpas are, the word kalpaniya in Sanskrit is called imaginings in time. Do we really have an English word like that? Does fantasy cover it, or I don't know, rumination, or what other words can we find? You see, kalpanika, imaginings in time. It pretty much defines the whole problem of sankalpa, which is again a root for that word, or a part of that word, sankalpa. Projecting via our desires, vikalpa. Creating worlds, like building cloud castles in the sky is one term, you see. And then living in them only so long as they last, and then the wind blows them apart, like it does all cloud banks. And then finally you have nowhere to go but fall back to where? Fall back to the feet of your mother is good, but fall back into matter in rebirth, they say, is not so good. Be dragged from birth to death and death to birth, the soul, as Vivekananda said in his song of the Sannyas. And so, kalpa, kalpanika, imaginings in time. So nirvi kalpa would be near, making those extinct, like nirvana in Buddhism. I will make those imaginings in time extinct, and I will live in what's left over. I'll be free. See, I won't have anything to worry about. Sort of like in my deep sleep tonight, only uninterrupted and unalloyed, going on forever. Eternal freedom, the breath of internal freedom. The breathless air of heights, as the Chinese poet said. Breathless air of heights. Nice, gives you that feeling of living on high. On the other hand, a bird can fly so far into the sky, but it needs a branch to come to rest on once in a while. See, so as long as you're in form, and you have some business here, or some karma that holds you here, or some work to do here, then you're going to have salvikalpa. I'm talking about these as if we all have them, you know, see, just like any time we want, you see. But we've lost that. That's, you know, if you really looked at Sri Ramakrishna and said, what's his meaning? If I look at that man, what's his meaning? It's probably be pretty convincing just to say, to show us that samadhi is our true nature again. Because he was having them all the time, all over the place. And we look at that and say, marvelous, marvelous. You see, that's a unique person. But the seers are looking at that and say, no, that's just a natural human being. That's what you were intended to be, you see. So our founder, Lex Sixon, used to say, Paramahamsa, he was just a natural human being. He's the way a human being should be. Having samadhis all the time. And having them according to what state of consciousness you happen to be in that day. But everything from Leela on upward, and nothing from Leela on downwards into the Maya, you don't fall subject to brooding anymore. You don't fall subject to ignorance or fear or doubt. Those are erased, along with anything else in the kalpa or kalpanika category. They're erased. They're sons of a barren woman. They're water in a mirage. They exist, but they're not for you anymore. They're burnt ropes. They look like a rope still, but they can't bind you. So, I mean, so you know, if you're coming from her feet, or let's say from matter upwards towards her feet, like the stalk, the roots of the lotus down in the mud still, then this looks like growth to you. This looks like I'm seeking enlightenment to you, and I'm doing work and perspiring and suffering in order to get there. But that's not at all the case. It's a way of explaining it to yourself when they say, And they are right, by the way, even though they're not giving you the best route for you. The pseudo-Advaitists who are saying you are pure and perfect, but then unfortunately they add on to that, so you don't need to practice. That's not the way to treat people of this day and age. The Kali Yuga. You don't tell them they're pure and perfect and then say you don't need to do anything, just realize yourself. Or you don't come to a materialistic culture and then say, oh, let's take away yoga and give you hatha. You see, that's enough for you. That's just piling more gloom on gloom, and they're going to have more weight, less real progress. See, if there is a transformation happening here, which of course a parinama there isn't, but the best level of belief in transformation to fall into is the transformation that happens up here, Vivekananda said, not the brutish animal, or the man with 5 senses only, but the man with the intelligence who has been given the grace by Mother to march inward, see, to take up the path. Then the transformation that happens from mind up is okay. It's not going to harm you. But any other belief in transformation that happens anywhere below that is just Maya throwing its tricks at you. And you have to stay on your guard. You have to remain on vigil. You know how many ways that can come at you, not just everyday ways, but some very insidious ways Maya can march into people's lives. Through some very insidious beings who have fallen deep, deep into the mud of relativity. So you're going to have to keep up your guard and your vigil and keep your mind on Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, keep your mind on the Ishtam and on her, on the divine energy that's flowing through him. Devatma Shaktim. Yaha Karnani Nikilani Tani Kalatma Yuktanya Adidishtat Yekaha, as the Svetashvatara Upanishad says. We have seen the Devatma Shaktim, who exists in everywhere and in everything, you see. So keep her, bring her forward, lure her out of hiding. That's what this chart's about. We see everything is the Devi. It's like saying all is Brahman. So she already said here, when everything goes away, I retreat back into Brahman. I'm latent in it. Like fire, heat is latent in fire. Just strike the fire. Can you strike a heatless fire? I dare you. Can you make a wetless water? I don't think it's going to happen, you see. So those two are together eternally. Shiva Shakti. You cannot separate them. And that's a very good example of your own nature. You see, you are one with Brahman. I and my Father are one, might as well be saying, I am Shakti and he's Shiva. Or all of these beings out here are all women, he's the one male. See, they're all women and he's Krishna. And we're all headed for our union with that. If it's a Savikalpa union, then keep Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva in the picture. But if it's a Nirvikalpa union, say goodbye to every form, like a hailstone is when it's falling towards an ocean, and just give yourself up, see. And you might find these almost like two different moods for an enlightened soul like Ramakrishna. Didn't you see him? Sometimes he would come out of samadhi and it would be the deepest kind, and he couldn't even recognize Naren, Vivekananda, or his wife, Sri Shardi. Who are you again? He'd been just gone for so deep and for so long that he's not remembering forms and names anymore. He's just remembering Brahman. Other times he would come out and immediately start talking her wisdom, you see, and laughing and joking with the boys and so forth. So he had these as moods, the way we would have everyday moods. Oh, I'm in a good mood now, and I'm a little abstracted now, and now I'm into my work, you see. Just kind of our everyday moods. So Nirvikalpa, Savikalpa, a great study. And if you took these, I could put in parentheses there, asampragyata and sampragyata, if you wanted to go to yoga from Vedanta, because asampragyata would be seedless, and sampragyata would be with seed. And then you would get into the study of samadhi as the one form of samadhi and the 4 to 8 formed samadhis. So now you know that wisdom is a samadhi, bliss is a samadhi, ego is a samadhi, refined ego is a kind of samadhi. So all of a sudden you're opening up the doors of samadhi. You see, if I had expensive equipment like Vice President Gore had when he was presenting all his work on global warming and everything, then I could have charts pulled out of charts. I could see how all this connected back deeper into other things. And there'd be this, you'd finally see this, what I've been trying to describe as this huge web of nadis along which prana is helping thought souls go to different lokas inside, you see. And you could visit a loka without giving up the body. Ramakrishna and Sharda said, we left the body once and we were going to these different worlds and we saw all the beings in them and came down and talked with them and saluted them. I don't know how long we were gone. When we went back to the body again, I saw my body sitting down there and I didn't want to get back into it. See? She was already still in her 20s probably and young and healthy, but she didn't want to get into the body. She said she thought it was an uncouth thing, you see. I don't want to get back into that cage of bones and flesh. I'm having fun in here. This is beautiful. So back into the body to take on the sacrifice, the suffering, and to help others see the truth, the light of the truth. So anyway, the point being that you can visit lokas even while you're still in the body. You do that tonight when you sleep. Your consciousness shifts to another region. You just don't see the dynamics of it, the actual steps that you're taking. They go by too fast. And you haven't meditated yet on your dream state and your deep sleep state and opened up nadis to them of consciousness where you're stable enough to go into them and know yourself there. You only know yourself here. I'm not talking about necessarily you, but generally the human being only knows himself in waking state, or only knows himself in gender, him and her, or only knows himself in terms of ancestors or whatever. Now, so much could be said, of course, about Nirvikalpa, Salvikalpa on this tour that I'm giving you of Divine Mother Reality, the Mother of Wisdom in all her facets, as many as we can look at. So let's look at these two other pillars which are very much the same and which I already mentioned. Nirguna, Saguna. Nirguna is reality without attributes. Kalpa is without imaginings in time, without time and space. Guna has more to do with qualities, you see, and their appearance and their disappearance. So this is now no qualities. So you have to have words in different periods of time in India that would cover all bases. See, if you just say take name and form and karma, but you leave out time and space, then someone else in 100 or 500 years has to come along and say, well, here's a quick teaching about time and space being unreal too. You see, and here's the 5 akashas. You see, that the seers have talked about as far back as Lord Vashishta, and there's how Kala fits into the picture. Lord Shiva is named Kala, so he's the witness of the 3 phases of time. So you get these teachings all of a sudden that would fill in Maya. You see, otherwise, any given time, according to the people and their issues and their problems and their needs, that a great collector of religious knowledge, a great seer, had seen at that particular time. He was giving a teaching just for that, to help the people of the time. The best of them borrow from the ancient, you see, and bring that ancient forward to contemporary times, like Vivekananda has done. So anyway, when something is completely devoid of gunas, of modes, then you're going to call it nirguna, and when it has modes, even very, very subtle modes, like time and space and so forth, then you're going to call it saguna, with attributes or qualities. So those two need to be both taken into effect, because this has to do with mind more, and this has to do with qualities. Right there, I added in those, see, because it's such a nice image here of Mother. This isn't necessarily your strict Durga image. We've used that enough. I pulled this from a different collection, and saw nice things in it, like this nice strand of sugar cane she's holding. See, very, very nice for us Hawaiians. But it's got so many divisions that are perfect for the chakras and for the worlds, and it's also sweet. You know how sweetness permeates everything in regards to mother. Like sugar, like sweetness in sugarcane juice. Sri Ramakrishna said, I could probably find a place to put that quote somewhere in here. No, I guess not. Like sweetness in sugarcane juice, he used to say, God permeates everything. Why aren't we seeing that? Well, if we had kept sight of the word and our discrimination around it, then we would have also heard the seers say, these two great pillars are here. See, this image has outer pillars and has inner pillars. So that would be a parinama on the formless side. That is, basically, there is no transformation ever going on. It's all a ruse. Brahman, all is Brahman, and Brahman's nature is unchanging. So how can, if this is all Brahman, how can it change? So you have to follow the rules of Advaita Vedanta, even right down to the roots of the lotus sunk in the mud, you see, and have that as your personal philosophy. That is, those are your pillars that you're going to base everything on. It's going to help you later when Maya starts throwing up its many tricks, you see. Oh no, that's not true because of a parinama. Oh no, that's not true either because of parinama. And you just become like Vivekananda, like a hot knife through butter, the butter of Maya, just cutting through all superimpositions that would want to overlay themselves or foist themselves on you, whether it be from the insentient matter or from the sentient ignorant soul, you see, because you have both of those coming at you too. Matter is just going to cover as a matter of fact, but human souls are going to come along that are devious, that are ignorant, that are naive, that are well-intentioned but poorly equipped. They're also going to foist things on you from a more sentient perspective. You have to be able to cut through them all. So a parinama is one of those great blades, you might say, one of those great machetes you've been given early on for the jungle of Maya that you're about to get into. And that's going to be non-transformation. Nothing transforms, it just appears to. And you put it together with your modern quantum physics and you pretty much see where you're going with that. If everything vibrates, all particles of which objects consist are vibrating at a billionth of a second, then that's change too quick to see. And since you're not seeing it, you're seeing solidity instead. You're not seeing the real tree. When you look at the real tree, you're seeing the gross tree, which is the senses so slowed down that it can't perceive vibrating particles. But if you looked at the real tree, you'd see the vibrating particle tree like as if you had refined electron microscopes as eyes. But the Buddha essence tree, or the Vedanta Atman tree, you would not see, because it does not change. And then you'd know that is the substratum for everything, and all other change at whatever level, waking, dreaming, deep sleep, or gross, subtle, and causal, would be given up as a parinama. As parinama, as changing. And so you would be a parinama in your outlook, always and ever. And by the way, Holy Mother was asked, Ramakrishna was so many things. His path, so universal, so wide. We, his followers, what are we? Which one do we prescribe to? Can we find a major nadi there to center ourselves in? And she said, you're Advaitas. He was an Advaitas, so all of you are Advaitas. So she's giving us full permission, if needed, or full support and encouragement to state and avow for ourselves that the Advaitic pillar is our foundation. We are Advaitists. If we're Ramakrishna Advaitists, then of course look at the Nectar Journal, because ever since issue 1, we've been telling everyone about Shakta Advaitavada. That's a beautiful path in India. And when Lex heard that word, in India, he got very excited because before he had known how widespread and how deep Ramakrishna's path was, but putting together non-dualism with Mother Kali and the worship of Krishna, love for Ram, abidance in Shiva, and everything else in there was Ramakrishna Vedanta, as it were, but and Tantra too, and yoga, and all those other darshanas. But then when he heard the word Shaktadvaitavada, which is, by the way, the name of the next series of classes I will give in Hawaii, which all of you here in Portland can look at on the weekends, then he heard that word and he got very, very enamored of it. Shaktadvaitavada, that's what we are. That really pegs us. See? We are worshippers of Mother in the Advaitic sense, and that's our path, Vada. So a nice way of clarifying again that alum in brackish water. So on the other side, Ajativada is this other pillar. Ajativada means what Krishna taught to Arjuna earliest on, and what Vasishta taught to Ram earlier than that, when he was a teenager, is birthlessness and deathlessness of the soul. These two are so connected, you see, really. When you say everything is transformationless, then you must be talking about an eternal thing that doesn't have any origins and doesn't have any ends. No beginnings and ends. So just apply it now to the human soul instead of to reality. Because in Brahman there are no human souls. There's just one soul, one massive great self. But now here on the Saguna level, and you're asking questions about Saguna and so forth, then you're going to have a philosophical word and ideation that covers that for the human, for the transmigrating human soul, birthlessness and deathlessness of the soul. That's going to have to be also my own, period. I must consider myself birthless and deathless, and also all of my brethren and all of manifest humanity as being one birthless, deathless soul. So, Aparinama and Ajativada, pillars of non-dualism. Major pillars. Now, in order to get about half of this done before the break, let's look at her 4 arms there. Icha, Kriya, Dravya, and Jnana are written on her 4 arms. They're holding various ornaments. It's interesting there, I was trying to think of what to put for the parrot, but he kind of disappears behind everything, but there's a flower she's holding with a parrot sitting on it. And maybe that's the glitter of the world, to be careful of the glitter of the world, like the peacock. But the parrot's also mentioned several times in the Upanishads, so it has higher connotations there. Whatever the case, she has those 4 arms, Icha, Kriya, Dravya, and Jnana. So Icha is will power. That's why we often sing that beautiful song to her. That was probably Sri Ramakrishna's favorite. Remember? He used to sing, Shakale tomari icha, icha mai tar tumi, tomar karma tumi karma, loke bale kariya, manke bale kara kari, hangure langa ogiri, hare doma brahma pada, hare kara adidama, shakale tomari icha. She will icha. If you give everything to her, she will take everything into her. So through her puissant and divine will. He loved that song so much. Oh Mother, all happens by thy own sweet will. Is basically the first line of that song. And then goes on to say, you trap the powerful elephant in the mire, but somehow caused a lame man to climb the highest mountain. He makes these impossible things possible. Maya is making the impossible possible, isn't it? And I am the house, you are the indweller. I am the chariot, you're the charioteer. O Mother, I move as you move through me. So movement is Kriya. So that actually is next. There are probably 5, 6, maybe 7 different charts I could show you right now that have some sort of representation of 4 arms. Let's see if we can find them. Let's see if we run here to the 12 higher spandhas of Shaivism. You have Shaivism, which added 12 cosmic principles on top of the 24, right, that we know about, which was the 24 might as well be 25, the 5 sets of 5 we're talking about. Pancha Karna system. They added 12 more on top. So if they added 12 to that, then they would probably go and take the 4 arms of Mother and add 2 more. So they had them there. So there's Ichya, there's Jnana, there's Kriya, and there's Dravya. And then they add to it existence and experience are 2 of her other arms, Chit and Ananda. And you would have Father of Yoga heavily in agreement with that. Chit Shakti was to him the mother of intelligence. And Ananda, you would probably have all the Prema Bhaktas applauding that one. Bliss has to be a part of divine reality. Sat, Chit, Ananda, if you want to put it into a Triputi. Pure existence, pure knowledge or wisdom, and pure bliss. So there's always these beautiful amalgams that point toward oneness, and then there's these very, let's say, questionable amalgams that point away from oneness, through which you would have to keep your pillars with you, keep your divine memory with you as you ventured towards them, if you were going to venture towards them at all. So there's one. Let's see if we can find another. Here in the chart on Maya and its evolutes. One of the very first charts out of the first issue of Nectar, which actually I was just mentioning. Out of Parabrahma comes Om. Out of Om comes Shakti, or she's the purveyor of Om, and there's her 4 arms, you see. Ichya, Jnana, Kriya, and Dravya. So many systems, Tantric, Yogic, Vedantic, talk about her many arms. So more specifically, we sang about and spoke a little bit about her divine will, but then her divine action, Kriya, is called spontaneous action. It would be very wonderful if we learned the art of action in inaction, or karma yoga, really well, and then our actions would also become spontaneous. We wouldn't have to pre-think them or have fear about how they'll come out. You see, we would have given up all those things, and we would just be, like Sri Ramakrishna said, like a puppet made out of toothpicks or out of popsicle sticks, you see, that the kids do, and then tied onto strings and taken here and there. That's how he felt he was. He had given everything up to Divine Mother, and so she was moving him. Oh, Mother, you move as I move as you move through me. So that's Kriya Shakti, also very nicely illustrated in this song. This song is very good for both of those 2 arms. When he says, I'm the machine and you are its operator. And he's talking about this Kriya Shakti, how she spontaneously operates beings. And they know nothing about it unless you find a Sri Ramakrishna who becomes in the know about her by worshipping and loving her. And in the know means Jnana. Jnana would have to be undoubtedly one of her 4 arms. That is wisdom itself. If what I'm explaining to you here doesn't make that clear, then I can't get through to you, because this is all wisdom, you see. She's the wisdom mother, she's the goddess of the word, Vakdevi, and so forth. It's so apparent that all of this is the manifestation of Mother, and her wisdom is in everything, shooting through and through everything like sweetness and sugarcane juice. So we will go on with exploring that arm of Jnana as we take this tour today. Now, the final arm is very important because it's Dravya Shakti, and that's usually defined as the producer of substances. So you would have to go beyond the recent study of energy and matter, and you'd have to put with that a sort of saying that says you can't get something out of nothing. Where did the energy come from, or where did the matter come from? Where did the Big Bang come from? You'd have to look deeper and deeper into origins to find satisfying answers to your questions about origins. Utpatti, they called it in the ancient times. Utpatti was very, very important as far back as Lord Vashishta teaching Sri Ram as a teenage boy. The young avatar, unbeknownst to anyone yet. He was this beautiful young child, just like Buddha, the son of a king, a prince. And Vashishta was telling him about the import of this kind of inspection, deep inspection of origins, Utpatti. It's a whole section of Yoga Vashishta scripture called Utpatti. And my version of it for SRV, I just took out a few stories that were most pertinent to the times. But inspection of origins is what you would need to do to discover how a thing is produced. All the way to the fact to where, as we were saying in the retreat, you cannot produce anything. It doesn't fall in scheme now with Maya, how things appear, and how you're to see that these things are all fictitious, that you must see through them. Well, put that in the same terminology as Dravya. You can't produce a thing because if you produce it, you've taken it from somewhere else. So that means its real nature was unproduced. And then I produced it as a microphone or a book or a pillow or a rug or a body. So I'm unproduced. My body's unproduced. It might go back to the 5 elements, but the 5 elements themselves are unproduced. They're names and forms, so they're Maya. So if you take them out of their formless state into a state of form, then you've pulled one curtain of Maya over everything. You've committed a ruse. And now the appearance has got you hypnotized. You get enough of those appearances stacked on top of one another, then you're totally lost to the nature of reality. You don't see what to speak of the origins of things, or that there is no ultimate origin. You've lost the Word, you've lost the Trinity, you've lost the Great Mind, and you've lost Brahman, all disappearing somewhere back inside of yourself in some dark closet with many doors closed. So if you then inspect the origins of things, you'll come to that realization they came to, that Ajativada, wasn't that one of your anaparinama, your 2 pillars, that transformation is going on, but really nothing transforms because all is Brahman and Brahman is transformationless. So you're back to your non-dual reality again, the light that's at the basis of the darkness in that closet with many doors. We often call that a chest of drawers, where everything is cleaned, ironed, and folded and put back in at the end of pralaya, which he mentions here. And then taken out again when it's time for a cosmic manifestation, a projection, and used all the way down the ladder. It's used. And it becomes, it behooves and it benefits the embodied soul to take a look at all those things that are right here in front of us, the 5 elements, the 5 senses. We forgot to question, how am I seeing? How am I hearing? How am I understanding? What is that power underneath all powers, which, is it turning off and on all the time, or am I turning off and all the time, off and on all the time? Is God asleep, in other words, or do I sleep? Does God have ignorance, or is it just I who have the ignorance? Is Maya real, or should I believe Vivekananda and shake it off? Maya is never in you, you're in Maya, so get out of it. So that ever-awake state, yogic insomnia, our founder called it, is what the seers attain. So they're always fresh and free and pure and in vidya, not in avidya, but in vidya. So when it comes down to Dravya, then, the producer of substances, we have to see that these, you would study the Panchakarana system. Here's another addition to this chart. I had manifested and unmanifested Prakriti, but I also added in 24 tattvas and the fivefold quintuplication process to the chart, right near those two. So we know that basically there are certain very, very subtle levels of manifestation that you might as well call unmanifested or close to unmanifested at a very high level. We'll look at that after the break. But then there are also this folding out of fives. You see, this is the new high five. You go like that with our fingers open. Yes, everything consists of five. It's just not a matter of, yes, I agree with you. It's just, I probably say, I don't really agree with you, so I can't give you that high five. Because you don't know the fivefold process yet, how many quintuplications there are in there. And dualities are all you're seeing. Until you see the triputis, then you won't understand the quintuplication process. So that is how Dravya happens, how she causes substances to be made through the connection between sentiency and insentiency, between soul and matter. And it's very causal at first, and then it's very subtle. When it's very subtle, it's like fivefold mind and five subtle senses and five subtle elements, like dream elements and dream senses. And then when it becomes gross, then the substances are produced. We wanted a place to set our foot, so with our senses and mind, we created solid ground. We wanted things to drink, so with with taste and water and so forth, we created a liquid. The idea of liquidity became actual liquid. It was an idea in our mind first, then it became water. So that process happens all too fast for us to see, and it's all too many yugas long to see, to remember. So that's Maya. And when you say name and form and time and space, you have to realize what you're saying there. That you're talking about, ho-hum time's an illusion. Yes, well, let's look about cycles of time that go into pralaya and then come back out again. So nobody remembers the last pralaya, not on a cosmic level, maybe on an earthly level with a Noah's Ark or something, which should be taken symbolic, but you're not going to remember the cosmic pralaya and coming in and out of that very well, unless you're a very deep meditator. And so you're talking about time, right? So same with space and the producer of substances, Dravya, how that all gets solidified and taken back into a liquid state and taken back into a vapor state. Sri Ramakrishna used to talk about water. It has liquid form, it has its solid form as ice, and then it has its gaseous form as vapor. So water itself is a triputi. See, it's a example of how we have three states of consciousness. If an element can have three states of being, then how much more can a human being have three states of being? And we'll also need three shantis to go with it, you see. So, and we'll also know that inside of those three states of being is an appearance, you see, because nothing ever changes. You're always one. So you're giving rise to threes and you're giving rise to fives. Well, that's how Dravya works, producer of substances. So far back, so swift that we don't see it happening, and so even our most intelligent scientists just overlook it. It might as well not be there. They'll be looking in physical space for a Big Bang, and that's how they'll explain the appearance of matter. And then the great discovery will be how matter and energy are incontrovertible and so forth. It won't go very deep. You'll have to go much deeper than that to get to this many-tiered system to find out the existence of five elements in your dream state tonight and in heaven. You still have them. See, I'm still carrying them to my ancestors. They have a kind of earth there, they have a kind of air, they have a kind of food, so forth, is all there also in heaven as it is on earth. So there, about down to her forearms, maybe halfway, possibly, we will stop and take our break and show this chart close up for the live streaming audience, and the rest of us will invigorate, breathe, liquefy with those very same 5 elements, or several of them, and walk around on this solid earth of our own devising. So I'll see you back here via the ether of the camera within 15 minutes. Namaste, and welcome back to the second half of this particular class, right in the midst of Navaratri, the 9 days and 9 nights of worship of the Divine Mother of the Universe, ending in Jayanti, the 10th day. So we will have our puja tonight at SRV for Durga, and go through all the various tantric, Vedic, Ramakrishna order, Shankara order kind of puja that we've constructed for SRV in the West. And hopefully that New Year's, which is kind of what Durga Puja is for the devotees, they're on their own calendar, will invite a visitation of her, Svagatam, as we start out the whole puja saying, welcome, welcome into our midst. And she will accompany us then for the rest of the year, and as she does for all time, as we're finding out. But more obviously and evidently into all the circumstances and situations of our life. And particularly in that area that she's best known for, Durga is known for spiritual transformation, which may be a little bit of a contradiction in terms if you look at the word aparinama, but nonetheless it's that transformation from animalistic to heroic to divine that we look for. Pasu, Virya, and Daiva, or Divya. That is a kind of transformation that's an inner transformation. When they came to Holy Mother and she said, why have you come to see me? Have I grown 2 horns? Am I a spectacle, in other words? No, they heard that she was the wife of Ramakrishna and reached a high state of realization in that particular life that she was the mother of the universe. And they wanted to see her, so she met. There was no transformation outside or to see. It was all inside. No sensation. She was pretty much just in her usual village garb that she often wore, just simple cloth, and yet emanating the highest wisdom, humble and serene, as she says here. Lajja, I appear as Lajja, very shy, very retiring, very humble, the best of womanly qualities. So our Divine Mother of the Universe very much manifest in Sri Sharda, whom will be a part of our worship tonight of Sri Durga, a major part. Now, if we take a tour around her august form, we're seeing not only 10 arms and 6 arms and 4 arms and 20 arms and so forth, but we're seeing all the, and not just the articles that she holds in her hands, which we've did a lot of study of previously in the early days of SRV, but now we're beginning to see how meanings are there impregnating her on every level. And we've looked at the top half of the chart so far, and we've come down so far to those 2 ghee lamps that are lighting up the darkness. And so it was a perfect opportunity for me to use Sri Ramakrishna's teachings about how Divine Mother gives Brahmagyan to some and Prema Bhakti to others, but to a great soul like Sri Ramakrishna gives both. So to those she wants to make teachers, she'll give Jnanam, and those who she blesses with devotion and ecstasy and bliss and so forth, she gives Bhakti, or Bhakti. So that's, Jnana is sun in the sky and Bhakti is moon in the sky, but sometimes you see both sun and moon in the same sky, he said. That's where you see this great being like a Paramahamsa, or grander yet, an avatar, who has both Brahmagyan and Prema Bhakti. So those are perfect for those 2 lamps. Not a lot need to be said about them because everything that's emanating out of the light of that lamp has to do with all of these. The light of that light is the light of a billion suns on earth, but its light is anterior to life and mind, anterior to the planetary existences, anterior to the lokas. It's a light that's the light of the sun rather than the light of the moon, as Vedanta says. It emanates in its own way, self-effulgently. So her 2 great lamps, as it were, and again placed on sides that are mostly in accordance with formlessness and Jnanam, and then this side very much in accordance with bhakti, compassion, and so forth. And that's actually, there's 2 new additions here, Satyam and Ahimsa, that weren't there on the chart before. So there's 5 and 6 of the new ones that we've been looking at here. On the non-dual side, we're putting Satyam, truth, which is, of course, Sat Chidananda, the great existence or the great truth, is a great pillar. And on the other side, Ahimsa, or non-dualism, pretty much go with these two, Aparinama and Ajadivata. If you're going to take birth, then you're going into this side, then you're going to want to adopt a peaceful mode and try and keep your actions free of karma. So that means, of course, nonviolent in thought, word, and deed, which all the sensible and intelligent beings who come adhere to. And those who deviate from it have karma to pay in accord with that. And then, of course, Satyam, Sri Ramakrishna said, is the path for this age. If you could just pick one yama of the 5 yamas, or if you could just pick one nadi, one path to follow, then the path of truth would be it. If you adhered to it, would be enough to get you realization of Brahman. Interesting that he would say that about Satyam, but if you were to pick 3 of the niyamas, they would be Kriya Yoga, wouldn't they? So one of the yamas, Satyam, is the path of the age, and 3 of the niyamas, that is, study of scriptures, devotion to God, and austerity, are the Kriya Yoga side. So yoga is 3 and truth is 1. So it all fits very nicely into both yoga and Vedanta. So this chart really is an amalgam of yoga, Vedanta, Tantra, Samkhya. What we've been talking, the brain, the heart, the energy, yoga, and the body, Samkhya, is all here, as are the 4 yogas. So that's an addition there, next to those great shining lamps of Brahmagyan and Prema Bhakti. When we go through this chart and have completed it, which I intend to do today, then tomorrow I'll take certain aspects of it, starting with Om. Tomorrow's class will be about the word and how it has 4 stages, and also about Hrim, the mother power of Bijam, the mother Bijam of power that is in her mantras. We'll look at that first tomorrow, if we don't make it there today. Now, right there at the center, at her navel, right around her waist clasp there, is prana. And we looked at that at the retreat recently, into the important missing link of prana, which we've been studying. Missing links are prana and tanmatras. When you look at a list of 24 cosmic principles, I'd say probably even the worldly and materialistic Westerner could understand it. Oh, great God's mind, yes, I can conceive of that. Or I can conceive of intelligence and mind and 5 elements. And the 24 cosmic principles are not so unknown to people. It's just that they know them only on the outside. But God's mind, where is that? Up in space and in a bearded fellow's head? You'd have to start thinking interiorly in order to come to understand it deeper. But as words, as concepts, they're not that far. But prana and tanmatras, even as words, escape the Westerner, escape the contemporary person. If you're into Taoism and you hear the word ki or chi, or you're a Frenchman and you hear the term élan vital, or whatever the case may be, if you're a scientist and you're talking about the energy and matter combination, then you're already kind of speaking of or beginning to broach or think about the prana. It's just that, again, you didn't listen to Christ very deeply when he said, man does not live by bread alone. Or if you did try and understand that and you thought, well, that means he lives by God. But in strictly speaking in philosophy, Brahman is not a part of this. All is Brahman, but it's not a form. And everything from word on down is form, isn't it? That's why the chakra has 2 apertures, 2 gates. One goes out and one goes in, is what I've been saying. Souls come out of Om and down the spectrum to create a mind, to formulate a mind, and then They dissolve it back into the other side. It's always going in. So form and formlessness have to do with the word Om. That's the, in the beginning was the word, it was with God, and it was God. Well, that's a triputi there. 3 things he's saying about Om to John. And it has to be taken and meditated on and understood. And then you'd understand philosophically and then cosmologically how that works. We'll get to that tomorrow, as I said. But prana there, right there at her waist clasp, is right out of that 3rd chakra. They say that's where Om originates, but no, Anahata, Om, is at the heart, and also a very high level of it, as I said, the 2-petaled here at the mind. So it's Om is where the aspirant begins to hear Om. That's what it really means. Not at the navel. You meditate on the navel because your consciousness hasn't risen above the navel yet. When it rises to the heart, as Sri Ramakrishna said, you say, see Om and hear the light, and you'll say, oh, what's this, what's this? You're like in the presence of Om there. And Om is beginning to become a gateway to the formlessness here. And it's becoming the word here, isn't it? You're hearing wisdom, you see. That's why Dharma is there with that conch shell, and with this bell, Shabda is there, because those are sounds of God. You see, Nada Brahman, Shabda Brahman, those are words that are well associated in India with word, with the word, but its manifestations as Jnanam, one of those 4 arms. So the importance of knowledge, again, can't be denied. As far as the goddess of wisdom herself, or Vak Devi, that means the goddess of the word, Vak. So prana there is a very important energy to become aware of. That's why we don't believe in anything beyond the physical particle, because we haven't discovered the pranic particle. Pranic particle is another flow that's going along these subtle nadis that we can't dissect or see, or, well, I suppose we could feel them. We could say we feel the energy, we feel the goddess, we feel good health, Mukhya prana. Maybe Mukhya prana would be the first kind of prana we really feel, if you want to use feeling as it goes together with the air, as the connection. We would actually begin to feel the Mukhya prana. I feel healthy, oh, I'm not so healthy right now. So that's not just the gunas there. It's our karmic cycle and our health and our ill health and our activities and the food we eat and so forth. But when you stop living by bread alone, then Mukhya prana gets refined, as we know from the Kundalini system, the Yoga Kundalini Upanishad, and begins to be refined and turned into ojas. So that good health that was physical all of a sudden turns into good health mentally and intellectually. Then you've got a scholar or a pundit shining with Meda, with Chetana, with Jnanam, with any word you want to choose out of the many words in Sanskrit that have to do with knowledge. Vidya, there's so many of them. They each have a little bit different connotation possibly, but that chit shakti, that energy of knowledge is healthy, makes you feel healthy all the time when you have it. Your body can even be ailing, and you're still like all enamored with chit, see, with consciousness, with knowledge, with intelligence. You say, oh, the body, And that's what happened to Dotapari. He's meditating on the river banks, and his body was giving him digestive problems because of bad food or whatever, and he decided, I'll just give up the body and stay in Jnanam. So he went out to drown himself in the river, but Mother Kali played a trick on him, and it was low tide. He couldn't find any water deep enough to drown himself. As he wasn't committing suicide, he was just giving up the body, and there's a difference. So then prana becomes this doorway to our ancestors, as I say, the prana particle, and then it connects to the particle of mind, chit is again, and intelligence, jnanam. So that's why it's right there at her center, you see. Below that is her feet, Devi Padam, and we started there with the retreat. Remember, everyone very much appreciated that beautiful stotram. Namaste Sharanye Shive Sanukampe Namaste Jagadvyapike Vishwarupe Namaste Jagadvanja Padaravinde Namaste Jagatarini Traidurge Namaste Jagachintya Manaswarupe Namaste Mahayogini Jnanarupe. And on like that. This beautiful Durga Stotram, Sri Durga Stotram, it's called. Namaste Mahayogini, the yogini of all yoginis, that great mother whom the yogis sit in caves to try and get a glimpse of in the darkness and turn off their senses and find that prana and take that prana inward like a great Garuda bird and take that inner journey to her feet, to the Devi Padam. So that's how we started out that retreat. Might as well start at her feet, I said, because I myself was overwhelmed by my own chart. You see, they say, she doesn't know the extent of her own wisdom. That's what they say about Mother. That's one of the songs of Ram Prasad. Doesn't know the extent of her own wisdom. It's just vast and infinite. So how much less a mere mortal is going to, start tampering or playing around with that and go, oh my God, look out. Yikes, you see, it's coming out at me everywhere. It's coming out of the woodwork. In fact, wood is Brahman. I never knew that before. So all of these manifestations of her begin to show up in everything, and then you can see how Sri Ramakrishna got into samadhi so easily. His consciousness so sensitized that seeing a lion at the zoo or seeing a waxworks or seeing a woman riding a horse at a circus, leaping through a ring of fire, would just, wouldn't put him in just amazement, but would put him in actual samadhi. It's like for people looking at that saying, let me see more, let me see more, let me see, a den of lions. See, but for Ramakrishna said, one lion's enough, I don't want to see any more forms. So he goes the other way when he sees a spectacle. He knows the spectacle is Maya. So he goes toward the source of Maya, Mahamaya. And then he finds her. It's really pretty much that simple. But this consciousness has to be sensitized, so the intelligence has to be refined. So your awareness has to be non-dual. Whichever way you put it, or all combined, then your eye becomes single and you know the truth, and that truth is her, Satyam, as we said. Some of those great inner pillars. So prana and her feet, very nice to take them together. When you come to her feet, Devi Padam, then you've gained the end-all and be-all of human existence. That is the subject of many songs, her lotus feet, Pada Padam and so forth. We sing, actually, one of our own Ramakrishna hymns sings that. Om Jananim Sharanam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Pado Padme Toye Sritva Pranamami Mahur Mahur. Pado Padme Toye Sritva Pranamami Mahur Mahur. Prana is there and Pranamam is there and Pado Padme, and her lotus feet are also there. So it's the subject of both ancient Durga Stotrams and very contemporary Ramakrishna order offerings. That one particularly by Swami Abhedananda. one of the direct disciples, 16 direct disciples of Ramakrishna. Now, I said earlier that sadhana is, might be considered pure impure, like shuddha shuddha, because you're using these tools, these systems, these self-disciplines in order to get yourself back to your original state. So some imperfections have grown, some false superimpositions have fallen over your mind, some curtains have come down, Maya has thickened, the curtain of nescience has thickened, the cloud of unknowing has visited you, for however you want to put it in different traditions. And you need a machete, or you need a great light, or you need just some patience to wait till the fog clears. Then the sun will burn it off, and you'll know that it was not real to begin with, a fog bank, that is. And you imagined all sorts of horrors in it while you were in it, but they were non-existent too. So you become willing to forbear. That's one of the shatsampat, right? Titiksha. You'd be willing to forbear all things. It's one of your sixfold wealth. So spiritual wealth is different than Caesar's wealth, for instance. So now we begin to know when he said, store up your treasures in heaven, what's he talking about? Just spiritual life, and then you get some reprieve out of the body in some heavenly realm with streets paved with gold, running with milk and honey? That sounds like a sticky mess to me. So the treasures in heaven are things like forbearance, and that you're going to forbear all the superimposition of all form, even heavenly forms, because those are part of Maya too, I'm afraid. You can't get out of form by going to heaven. You still have form. Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva still have forms, and they're the lords of heaven. So if they have form, certainly you're going to still be under the auspice or press of form if you're in heaven. One of the great teachings of Vedanta that can make a Christian a better Christian, and a Hindu a better Hindu, and a practitioner of Shinto religion a better Shinto practitioner, if you're worshiping just your ancestors, like some of these races are. You begin to look towards the more definitive, the more clarifying, the more intensifying levels of your consciousness. They are your consciousness, and you're turning on lights there. It's like opening nadis. Oh, I opened a nadi into that level of understanding. All of a sudden, you're living along a new nadi. People would say, oh, I feel so much better since I did such and such. See, so they did some discipline, and now they have made themselves feel better because some nadi has been opened up that isn't allowing, caffeine or THC to run through their bloodstream anymore. See, the physical austerity alone, if that. But when you get to sadhana, you're talking about something that's purifying things that you don't even know are imperfections in you. It's not like you can get in there and see ignorance go away. It just goes away like fog bank in the sun. So if you can just acknowledge, I'm foggy, and then you can get the sun shining inside of that fog bank and burn it off. Then you'll need patience and forbearance. The spool that's spun on your karma, throughout most of your life, when you take refuge at Mother's feet, Devi Padam, will stop spinning and spin the opposite way, and your karma will spin off in the reverse way that it's spun on. And that's called burnt ropes, burnt threads, if you will. You can put his two analogies together there because they still feel like karma, but they're coming off the reverse fashion. You're just purifying yourself. So sadhana is all about purification, but not just on a physical level or even just on a mental level. Psychological level, those are things that you should be able to do for yourself with the means available to you in society and so forth. But when you talk about spiritual life, something that is not of this world, and the fruits that you can't see, just like you can't see the treasures in heaven that you're supposed to store up, you can't see them either. You don't know what it is you're reaching for. You think you're reaching for a land of milk and honey and so forth, but what you're actually reaching for is that one who formulated through sankalpa, you see, through kalpa, the very realm of name and honey itself. You're the overseer of heaven. Why should you stop there? When heaven came out of you, earth came out of you, hell came out of you. You know where I'm going with that, right? Say peace to all. From me no danger be to aught that lives. Those who dwell on high, those that lowly creep, I am the self in all. All worlds both here and there do I renounce, heavens, earth, and hell. So he wants you, and all hopes and fears that go with it. So he wants you to renounce them. How do you best renounce them? By knowing that they're all inside of you. You don't make them go away like they're phantoms. The thought of them will persist in Indra's mind, or in Brahma's mind, and Vishnu's mind. You can't get rid of them. Those beings are much more powerful than you are. But you have an advantage over Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva in that you can meet them and move through them, move through the doorway of the Trinity. The Trikona, see, that's another addition. You might notice that I actually connected them in a Trikona moving downward. There's a triangle that goes with that that's a Star of David that would be, the point would be moving upward, you see. So that's actually Sri Aurobindo's sign for his integral yoga, is that, a Star of David only has two triangles placed opposite each other. And it means mankind is ascending and God is descending to meet him, if you want to put it in sort of religious terms. So the Trikona, if you want to go trans-religion, back to Tantra, Yantra, and Mantra, you're talking about that downward moving triangle as being very important. That might as well be the doorway into Om that the Trinity is presiding over, and they're the last vestige of form you will see. You get to the Father through the Son, in this case through the sons. They might as well be one. So that's another addition to the chart, that if you saw it, I'll give you a nickel, another nickel. Come up to me and say which one, So sadhana being the point here, it's a transformation, if any there be, on a spiritual level, and you're going to want to start practicing study of scriptures again that you've given up, or that your family has given up, that your lineage has given up, or has never known about, and reinvent the wheel in that regard. Create a new samskara that means scriptures are important, and I need to sit down and study them alone and with my family or with my children, teach the Dharma to my children. They'll like it, just sound a conch when it's time. They'll come running. They want to see the source of that sound, you see. And you just explain to them, did you like that? That's the way they used to announce Mother's arrival. That's the way in which they announced the Trinity's arrival. That's the way in which they announced two armies coming together at war. It's not the sound of shells going off. It's a sound of honorable conches being blown, and each conch has been given a spiritual name, and it's in the hand of each of the different generals and leaders of the two armies, and they're all sounding it before war goes off. It's the gospel of slaughter. It's the gospel of slaughter about to begin. Neither the Advaitas nor the Shaktas have any problem with that. And because they know the non-dual axioms of peace, ultimate peace, of birthlessness and deathlessness of the soul, and of the eternity of consciousness and its non-transformation. So they also know pretty much about the Leela and the play. And from a distance, they know about Maya. If they've fallen into Maya, then they're not distanced anymore from it. They are Maya. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, if you eat radishes, you belch radish. So if you eat Maya, you belch Maya. Everything you do, everything you say and hear is all in ignorance. Or mixed truth, which is almost worse than ignorance. Mixed things are almost worse than ignorance. That's why sadhana is mixed, and it can be almost worse than no sadhana. You know what I mean by that? If you get goal-oriented sadhana going, the teachers will correct you. Say, no, you're already pure and perfect. Don't fall into any misapprehension about that. So the pseudo-Advaitas who are telling you don't have to practice, they have half of it right. You are pure and perfect, but the other half they don't understand. Is that through rituals, through jnana yoga, study of scriptures, through recitation, through mantra practice, through selfless service, and through increasing your devotion to God, 4 or 5 different kinds of yogas, you will come to understand your true nature. Sadhana is important. very important, to the mind that's fallen from its original ideal, from its true nature, from remembrance of its true nature. Sri Krishna even says so in the Uddhava Gita. It may be, Uddhava, he says, that beings who will actually perfect themselves by their own efforts. And the rishis tend to like those kinds of beings. We don't have to be saviors for them. We can be exemplars. And we just exemplify the truth, and they'll look at us and say, oh, I see how he did it. And then they mimic, you see. There, monkey see, monkey do is a good thing. So, in that case, it would be muni see, muni do. You see the great beings, and they exemplify the truth. I am the light of the world, so you get the light, and you go towards them. And then you understand the sixfold wealth, what you store up in heaven. And when you have it clearly defined, then you can not only utilize it for yourself, you can share it with others, like your children. See, try and get them on board in this spiritual journey while they have a chance in this lifetime. It will be easy if you get them young, but if you wait too long, the world gets in. Samskaras, karmas from past lifetimes, past existence, it's going to be difficult to convince them. Something about sadhana there. Possibly tomorrow I can show you the Vedanta's form of sadhana and yoga's form of sadhana if there's time. That is the 4 treasures and the 6 jewels is Vedanta's sadhana. Viveka Vairagya, is a mental practice. If you see smell something's rotten in Denmark, or see the defects in your own eye, remove the beam from your own eye before you remove the mote of dust from another, Christ said. If you have imperfection in you, then the Vedanta gets rid of it right away with that. It doesn't come down to the body and start doing body exercises. He says, oh, I see, it's right at the very hub of inception of this thing. I have to do away with it right there. And does it, and is free of it immediately before it forms karma or begins to start a life of its own, as they say. So sadhana is your go-to move there for all of us that aren't absolutely 100% convinced that man, I and my Father are one. Who have not had nirvikalpa samadhi yet, or even still working on savikalpa samadhis, samadhis of bliss, samadhis of refined self, and this samadhi of knowledge that prana helps you to get. See, if you awaken that prana. Right there. So these things, although they're not necessarily put in an order that comes from top to bottom, as some of these higher principles are, they're still very much well connected here. And all the way down to the Trinity, which then you can see I put that trikona there. Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. The God of projection, the God of preservation, and the God of dissolution. We want to quit calling them gods of creation, preservation, and destruction. We're now going to call them gods of projection, sustenance, and withdrawal, or dissolution. All in the fact that we started with the fact that transformation doesn't happen and birth and death doesn't happen. So, keeping to the Advaitic pillars, then we can say, what's the function of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva? They're responsible, or they're partially responsible, under the mother's behest of making these worlds of name and form appear. And at a very high level, though. Brahma's creation is very sattvic. This is far beyond heaven, Brahma's loka. You have Bhur Bhuva Swaha. Bhava and Swaha are like lower and higher heavens. You have to go a long way beyond that, inward, to find Brahmaloka. That's not just a heaven. That's like Sri Ramakrishna described it as sitting on the banks of a beautiful ocean in a hut on the sand, and you can throw yourself in the beautiful waters every day and come back to your hut and back and forth. He's talking about a description of the 7th loka as being, you can you still haven't given up your last little vestige of attachment to land, to sand, to the bliss of separation from Brahman. But you can, even then, go and immerse yourself in the ocean to try and get yourself used to formlessness by degrees. See? So that's form and formlessness you're talking about, not heaven and earth. You see? That's very, very much more inward. That's why a good cosmology is very helpful for us to understand things like that, especially when someone like Shaivism comes along and adds to the 24 cosmic principles these 12, which we will look at tomorrow. Starting from the individual soul, where Samkhya started on its downward sweep, and going where individual soul exists upward or inward into the origins of these very subtle cosmic laws, like the inception of time and space as ideas, not as matter, see, but as ideas. And then Shaivism said, well, we should probably give everyone a look at what the subtle worlds, even the causal worlds, are like, as far as words can tell. We'll look at that tomorrow. Sadhana and the Triputi, the Trinity there for you. Then we get to the base. Well, actually, look on the sides there, and you see on the Brahmagyan side, Pramana, and I gave you the first SRV, its first introduction, formally at least. Some of you might have read about it already, but I gave you a first introduction to the 6 proofs of truth in Pramana in Vedanta, and the 5 truths as they are in Vaisheshika, and 2 other truths which the Puranas add in. So if you added all these proofs of truth together, you may have some like 10 proofs of truth from these 3 different orthodox systems, Astika, that actually help you to understand via name and form and worlds and time and space the existence of Brahman. That they're pretty much saying all of this points to Brahman. All form points to formlessness. They're all indicators. Water, earth, air, fire, prana, your mind, your thoughts, your dreams, they're all indicators of something much deeper, much vaster, and something that you need to know. If there is any origin with a capital O, it would be that ocean of Brahman, formlessness, and the Ishvara that stands at its shore, conducting souls in and out through 2 apertures, see, into form and back out of form. Lord Kapila, was he just a Samkhya scientist, or did he have much deeper knowing? Well, he said there are 2 streams of souls, one flowing into the ocean of Brahman, called Kaivalya Pragbara. Kaivalya means freedom. And another stream of souls flowing out of the ocean of Brahman towards Samsara, Samsara Pragbara. Pragbara means a dam. So these flows can actually get clogged up. Like a nadi, a huge nadi, that souls are not able to pass through barriers. Do you understand barriers? Little, sort of like psychic membranes that keep you from getting to the third eye, from the third eye to the crown, or from the third chakra to the heart, called Vishnu Granthi, and then to even get beyond the lowest chakra, to awaken that, there's a Brahma Granthi there. That's a membrane that's very hard to penetrate through. That's like a worldly person trying to gain spirituality. Remember, Sri Ramakrishna said most people don't even think of God even by accident. So there's that kind of soul there that's just one chakra, one-dimensional. And probably visiting these upper 2 chakras every once in a while for eating and drinking and sex life, that is, probably sex to them is the greatest thing that ever happened, you see, to them in their life. Or a good meal. That's what they look forward to. And that's rounds of birth and death in the 3 chakras. But basically, they don't think of God even by accident, so they're root chakra oriented. And they can't lift off. They don't even think of understanding higher things. They don't have the taste for it yet. Their sandbags in their balloon are too many, you see. And if they toss out one called drinking coffee or giving up alcohol, the balloon still isn't going to rise. See? It may move a little, see? In a strong wind, if you know what I mean. So this proof of truth then, the 6 of them in Vedanta are very, very powerful. Vedanta teachers are giving them out. And in India you will find them given out pretty often in intellectual and spiritual circles, but not here. Spiritual circles here, they're considered kind of dry and didactic and intellectual and maybe a little sterile, but if you get a good teacher and you think about them long enough, then you find that they're very fascinating. Like I was talking about, objects cannot be produced, because when you produce them, you take them from their unproduced state, see, and then you're changing their nature. But the nature of a thing cannot change, see. So anything that's unproduced, Gaudapada says, that anything that's produced has been taken from its original nature and made into an object. What does it sound like what we're approaching here? And that we've already mentioned, name and form, basically. You've given it name and form. Who did that? See? Was it Brahman? I wouldn't say so. Was it Shakti? Probably not. You know, was it you and Maya together? See? Hand in hand, arm in arm, waltzing along your great little study of a life? Yes, that was probably it, as Vivekananda said. And yet you are never in Maya. Maya is in you. So think beyond name and form. That's going beyond the box, philosophically speaking, spiritually speaking, going outside the box. And also you might as well throw time, space, and karma in there, because those are also very much interconnected in a quintuplication that is very, very stodgy and dense and difficult to penetrate through. It might as well be its own membrane. Might as well be the consistency of gross, subtle, and causal membranes itself. See, because there's Mahamaya here. She knows about Maya. But as far as the Trinity goes, they know about Maya, but they know that they're still in Maya. We don't know we're still in Maya. And that's the difference between the Trinity and us, you see, unless you're an awakened soul. They know they're in Maya. Vishnu says so in the Bhagavata Puranas and so forth. He has that story where Narada comes to him, and Vishnu and Narayani are kissing and so forth. So when Narayani sees Narada come in, she leaves. And Narada complains and says, "Why did the beautiful Lakshmi leave? See, I'm pure. I'm not in Maya. I don't get corrupted by seeing things." And Vishnu said, "Never say that. I'm still in Maya myself, so if I'm in Maya, you're in Maya." Maya is name and form, is time and space. Here we are in Vaikuntha. Isn't this space? Isn't time passing? Didn't you walk in the room and it took you some time to get here from Earth to Vaikuntha? Earth to Vaikuntha, Earth to Vaikuntha. How long is it going to take me? Well, at the speed of Manu Javitvam, probably not long. I meditate, there's Vishnu, I'm there, you see. It's not like traveling around a sun that takes 11 centuries to go around in a jet plane. You see. That's matter, that's slow, that's dense, that's fat. You see. That's huge. So the speed of the mind can take you inwardly if you know where you're going. Probably don't want to vault yourself in there until you have some sort of barometer to measure where you're going, where you want to stop. Or if you don't want to stop at all, do so gradually by stages. Those are a lot of the teachers coming to the surface of my mind right now. So, pramana, the 6 proofs of truth. The teacher is in the room, but at the break, you could have looked here and said, the teacher's not in the room. So, did the teacher not exist because of that? You knew he was in the room once, so you knew the teacher exists. So, if you see something that's there and then it's gone, you knew the knowledge that you knew it was there proves the existence of the non-existent. So take that to a very high level. Brahman is there, you see. God is there. God is the reality. And all of this proves it. And even when it goes into unmanifested property, which we haven't quite gotten to yet, into a state of pralaya, as she says here, we still all infer that God was there once, that world was there once, that the elements were there once. Everything exists all the time is our final conclusion. Sarvosmi. It all is. My final mantra, good night, folks. See? So, existence is. Everything is. Nothing is not, if you want to put that. I have a friend of mine who's a quantum physicist kind of person, you see. He's actually a scientist and was also a Vedantic monk at one time, and has that T-shirt, nothing doesn't exist. See? Very nice mantra. Nothing doesn't exist. Contemplate that. So that's one of the proofs of truth. You know, the absence of a thing proves its presence, if you want to put it very simply. So you look into those proofs of truth as we did at that retreat, and you have plenty of validation on the intellectual level, you know, for grounds for belief. What to speak of outright faith. Now you can't really undo that anymore. Belief is dead. Doubt is dead. You make doubt itself. You make fear afraid of itself, and put death in its own grave, as my teacher often told us. Now, in the remaining time, which is about 20 minutes, we are moving to the other side of a very, talk about fat philosophy, Kundalini Shakti and its chakras, Shakti and chakra. And that little sweet strand of sugarcane is a very nice example we can use of chakras and levels of consciousness that we all have in us. 7, they say, in the original system, but I found an ancient system by I forget his name now. But anyway, he had a diagram he left behind with almost no explanation of some 32 chakras along a snake. Goraksnath. It's just beautiful. And I actually made a chart out of it, and it's not listed as one of my charts, but I kept it aside because there's no commentary on it, on the chakras and their names. I looked into the names of the Sanskrit words in the dictionary, and it doesn't make sense, you know. So it's like almost a Brahma Sutra of charts. So I didn't include it in any of the almost 300 charts I've made now for visuals for people. But there is these other systems where there are many sub-chakras and many minor chakras. For instance, there's supposed to be 2 minor chakras between the throat and the third eye at the 2 ears, right here at the temples. 2 minor chakras. And I've actually met a yogi once who said that he had opened them and heard divine sounds through them. And he tried to explain it to me when I was in my 20s. And it's funny, after he explained that to me, I had an experience of them. I was in a little A-frame house next to the beach, the Pacific Ocean on the beach, and I was lulled to sleep every night by the waves. So one night I was sleeping near the ocean, and all of a sudden it was all calm, you see, and all of a sudden the waves, the slight sound the waves were making stopped for about 10 or 15 seconds, and in my sleep state, I noticed that sound had gone away, and a thrill of ecstasy passed through my body. And I jerked myself out of it. I punched myself for days, months afterwards that I did that. I could have just stayed there, you know. But it was so shocking that I just jerked myself out of it and it was gone. But just the absence, the presence of a sound like the ocean with its very, very, you know, lulling waves, and all of a sudden that stops. And that was all it took for me, for these 2 minor chakras, just to suggest to me this extreme bliss that was at the base of all sound, and as soundlessness, you know, the existence of sound and the non-existence of sound. She says, I'm Shakti and I'm also Ashakti. So even right on up to the very highest of all principles, the opposite is very important. That's where dualities become our friends rather than our enemies. They become outright helps, like form and formlessness, bondage and liberation. I've often said Shakti and Ashakti, sound and non-sound, ether and non-ether. I mean, these things are very profound, and of course, prana has been at the foundation of a lot of the impetus for some of the Einsteins of our world, like the Eddingtons and the Sir James Jeans, to have some of their great realizations. There are some scientists that have opened up the pranic to the pranic level of things, and some of them, like some of our recluses that have gone out into cabins and so forth, have read the Upanishads and found the correlation in the teachings of the prana, and so they've made it a part of their knowledge. When you read something from a system like this, that is something that is either a part of what you suspect to be true or something that you've already experienced to be true, but you don't have a name for it, and you get its validation to the scriptures, proof of reality, pramana, you see, then it becomes yours. And you'll never deviate from it ever again. It'll be a way in which you can explain things to yourself and to others. And if you do deviate it from in the future, it's because it's already had its use and you don't need it anymore. And you go beyond prana to something else, like the purveyor of prana, see? Like the Trinity, like Om. And it's not like then, the existence of this wisdom will go away, but it's just not necessary for you at that level anymore. You've evolved beyond that level. And you may come back to that station, which is behind the truth behind nothing is ever destroyed. So you don't burn bridges in our tradition. In fact, we often say, it's not such a matter of thou shalt not kill. In our tradition, it's thou cannot kill. So with prana, it's not that you can burn bridges, it's you can't burn the bridge. It's always there. You just go onto a higher bridge and come back to it later. So you get from one bridge to another on that upward path. And it's all connections. So enough about pramana for now. We could take out that chart and redo it, but maybe we'll wait for Hawaii to do that, because there are many other things which these all segue into. Like, for instance, Om. Tomorrow we'll take up the bijams, a couple of bijams. Now on the other side you see Kundalini and its chakras. Yes, that's where we had gone. And those 6 chakras, because quite often they don't call this a chakra. The system says 7 chakras, but this is not really a center anymore. It's the whole in itself. So these 6 stations of awareness that are such great ways of explaining both our true nature and the problems that keep us from it. And it's one of the most esoteric, probably if you want to really define it perfectly, it is the only esoteric system in all of India. All the rest, I think, are pretty much self-explanatory. If you look into them, they're not mystical, but this is a mystical system. The chakras replete with not just ideology and symbols, but ways of saying. We've looked at this chart before. Maybe you can just flash it real quick again. Is my poor attempt, I must say, at trying to illustrate for you that hologram of nerve endings and nerve channels that I've explained to you before. If you were able to take your subtle body and your causal body out and superimpose them there in the air like you could with some hologram, and show how they all lead to different worlds and along different trajectories, up and down, in and out, sideways. So we looked at this in accord with lokas. That's where I was going to go with it from this chart. These flowers strewn about her feet are worlds. Lokas are worlds or realms, and nadis are those nerves in the physical body, but subtle nerves in the subtle body, and nadis are called. There's, again, no word for it in English. And how souls transmigrate. And here you see the 7 chakras through the middle. And there's that mention of samsara pragbara and kaivalya pragbara. See that? And we know that there's a central sushumna, and then there's 2 nerves that are going around it, major ones in the Kundalini system. So one's sun, one's moon, one's male, one's female, one's upward, one's downward. They have different esoteric teachings around those 3 main nadis, Ida, Pingala, and Sushumna. Or sometimes I call them the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, you see, because you're taking an inward journey on these 3 great ships through these three great oceans or channels. And so there's a quick reference to the six chakras. And then, of course, here in the crown, where we saw was things like Brahman and the Word and the words of power, is that seventh chakra called the Sahasrara, or thousand-petaled. Two-petaled there at the third eye, as we were saying too. So metaphors are used, symbologies are used, but in the case of Kundalini Yoga, they can rather be taken literally. Sri Ramakrishna does so in the Gospel quite often, where he says, when my Kundalini rose, it felt like a trail of ants slowly going up the trunk of a tree. Other times it felt like a fish darting from, hiding place to hiding place, or a monkey swinging from branch to branch, or a bird flitting. So he would actually use metaphors physically to explain to you how he felt his consciousness moving that day. And it wasn't his moods, like, I'm in a good mood, I'm in a bad mood. The Kundalini Shakti never gave him a bad mood. In fact, he was free of all bad moods. Anyone would be if the Kundalini Shakti has risen above the third center. Heaven, basically. Heaven is good moods all the time. See? So now if it's risen here, then I'm seeing ocean, I'm hearing the sound, I'm seeing the light, Jyoti and Shabda, Om, and then I'm refining it, and I'm having a unitive vision of it finally, and then I don't know what's going on after that. See, it's just like the whole shooting match is behind me. I have come to her crown, and I'm resting there. Shakti has met Shiva, and nobody can describe after that what happens. You could just say Paramashiva, Paramashakti, the supreme union, or whatever. Or the original union that never knew division. And that was all a play at separation, like bees going out of her hair and coming back in. Black bees, black hair, black skin, black air. You see, it's all black, and one is becoming one with black. A beautiful song in India about that. Dupa, dupa, dive deeper and deeper into this blackness of Mother Kali, who is Durga's emanation from her third eye, by the way. So Kundalini Chakra, Shakti and chakras are something that we can look into, and we've taken a whole retreat on them. In fact, I think that was our third mother retreat at Wynwood Waters last week. The second one was at Buckhorn Springs in Ashland, Oregon, and that one we went through Kundalini Shakti charts, all of them. And then the one before that, we had gone through all the songs of India and various things. One of the series of classes I'll be giving in Hawaii in 2014 is going to be around death and how it's looked at through the poems of Ram Prasad and through some of the songs of India and the teachings of Ajativada, of Krishna and so forth, that there is no birth and is no death. They're really illusory. But how death is a god, Yama, and how it's a power of transition out of one form into the next. You could see where that choice of transition becomes very limited if you believe that you die. And if you just believe that I'm going to the next state, and that's not a superior idea either, but then I'm going from earth to hell and hell to heaven and heaven to higher heaven and so forth, then you've opened up a nadi, a channel, which is going to inform you about what happens to souls after death, what bardos they go to, as the Tibetan Buddhists say, or what lokas they're moving through. And this is a chart which I'm not going to go through intensely today or tomorrow, but I wanted to show it there because it had the 7 chakras and it had all of these nerve endings, as it were. Here's the Granthis, for instance. Disembodied spirits in the patalas, lower realms, are below that chakra. It's called a Granthi, Brahma Granthi. Granthi means not. So it's very hard to penetrate. See the downward going triangle there? You have to reverse that. It's very hard. Everything is weight, everything is gravity, everything is density, everything is ignorance, everything is cluelessness. And you're just going along with it in a kind of tamasic state. Even your sattva is tamasic there. It's a way of saying it. Your rajas is definitely tamasic, isn't it? Are people doing good acts? or are they doing good acts of stupefaction? That's how the father of that system, Samsara Pragbara and Koivaya Pragbara, put it. They're doing good acts of stupefaction, or they're doing mixed acts of stupefaction, or they're doing bad acts of stupefaction. And quite often all three of those are unconscious. They don't know the cause of them nor the effects of them until they experience them later. Then they don't connect the experience with the action. And that's tamasic sattva. Your best mood there is pretty dull. You might have noticed. See, you should go out and about. So piercing through that Granthi, you rise up, and here's the Vishnu Granthi. You get beyond the desire for heavenly existence. And that would be how Lord Vashishta would put it. And this triangle, this trikona, is definitely pointed a different direction. It's trying to penetrate through the Vishnu Granthi. That's what you're trying to do in meditation if you're an average human being. What I mean by that is as an intermediate seeker. As a beginning seeker, you probably don't know much of this, and you're just feeling a rise of something. But as an intermediate seeker, you begin to know through the scriptures and through the Guru's instructions the mysteries of the kingdoms of heaven within, and how consciousness can refine itself intelligent-wise, and it can actually become pointed. Danur grahitva upanishadam mahastram sharam hupsanashita sanjayita ayamya tad bhavakatena chetasa laksham tarevak sharam somya vidhi. So take as bow that mighty weapon furnished by the Upanishads, fasten to it the arrow of mind made sharpened by thoughts of reality alone. Then point it toward the mark, Brahman, and release and penetrate. So this is what you're doing. If Brahman is your main axiom and axle, then Aparinama and Advaita and Nirvikalpa and Samikalpa are there as the target, you see. You don't have any misgivings or confusion about what the target is. You've heard about it from your teacher. You've heard beings who have realized it by the thousands, and many of them have left testaments behind the scriptures, proofs, pramana. In all ways, Shabda is one of the proofs of truth. The words of the seers is one of the proofs of truth. How can you deny them? There might be, you could say if there was just one of them, it was just, kind of a crazy person. But if there were hundreds and thousands coming at you and their proofs were verified by each other and by the scriptures, wouldn't you have to say, well, this is a whole body of knowledge, Parvidya, that I know nothing about and I should find out. I might be missing the whole purpose of life here. Maybe tamasic sattva is not the purpose of life. Gee, wouldn't that be something? Maybe death is not real. Maybe eternal life that Christ talked about is real. And maybe it's beyond heaven too. So, penetrating the Vishnu Granthi, things get very subtle, let's say causal. And there's the Rudra Granthi right there. And there's the avatar perched on that. See, another downward going trikona. Another one here. Another one here. Another one here. See, consciousness is trying to reach you, in other words. But you must do sadhana so that you can meet it. Shakti wants to meet Shiva because she has a memory of how blissful that was. See? So all souls are trying to get into union with their true nature. That in a nutshell. And all these lokas, then, these flowers about her feet, are nestled there in Namarupa Desha Kala Nimitta. That's a quintuplication of Maya. We looked at that at the Panchakarna. It's called, that chart we did at the very end of the retreat a few days ago, is called The Meaning of Maya and the Panchakarna Process. And it pretty much started with that quintuplication, and then we had other quintuplications that were there. Maya quintuplications, sadhana quintuplications, and other quintuplications as well, that go beyond just this 5 elements and 5 senses connection. You can see how many quintuplications there are there going on. Now you see Shiva and Brahma wrapped all around that. See, sadhana and Maya all in one nice area there. That's the making of the soul. Will he or she awaken to their true nature, or will they fall back into the lower lokas? So there's that. And to finish up the tour in 5 minutes so we can look at some of the specific teachings, and then you can get off the train and pay me my fee. No, these teachings are given free. But you're taking a big journey here inside your own mind, inside your own self. This is called, a yoni, and there's usually a Shiva lingam in it, but she's kind of replaced that, you see. And so the yoni really has to do with birth, and it's empty inside is a very good opportunity for me to put unmanifested prakriti there, and the 24 cosmic principles, which we know from Samkhya Yoga, and which I've tried to endear you to, because I've said often, if you know the 24 cosmic principles and you've memorized them and you've meditated on them, then you're not going anywhere from now on. You're staying in one place. It's called Advaita Vedanta. And you don't need to be lost anymore in any nadi or any world, upper or lower. You have the foundation and the secret of what Tantra calls Srishti Rahasya, the secret of projection. You know the Trinity's secret, and you know her secret, and you know Maya's secret too, how it all effloresces out of Brahman as a dream, and then is taken back in as a retraction of that same dream. A many, many-tiered, multi-leveled dream. Fantastic dream. The adventure of consciousness, it's been called. Now, the outside of the yoni itself is the manifested side of Prakriti. Air, earth, fire, water, ether, seeing, tasting, touching, hearing, smelling. All of that are things that we can see, tactile senses and so forth, manifested Prakriti, mountains, forests, rivers, space, planets, a sun up there that takes 11 centuries to go around in a jet. All of that's manifested Prakriti. Tip of the iceberg. Tip of the iceberg. The rest of the iceberg is underwater or inside of that great womb of Mother, like a chest of drawers. And that's why it exists all the time, because it's just taken out of the inside, taken outside, produced deceptively, and then returned to its unproduced nature. That's all that's going on. And you shouldn't call it birth, life, and death. You should just call it projection, sustenance, and withdrawal. And when you look at the ocean, that's what it's telling you. A wave comes, plays a while, goes back in, comes again. It's just all arising and playing and falling, constantly, eternally, without end. Now, there's an ocean called samsara. That's without end too, but it has one end in moksha, Shankara says. In enlightenment, you can get out of the ocean of samsara. But there's also an ocean of matter, an ocean of manifested prakriti, and then there's an ocean of bliss called Ananda. So consciousness comes from there, from the ocean of bliss. That's its nature. And when it descends and turns into rivers and lakes and streams through nadis, I'm saying, then it begins to not resemble itself anymore very much. The lower it goes, the less it resembles its true nature, until you find us here, is in the lowest vibratory sphere, spanda, right here. But we still look like God, don't we? We're cut in the image. There's intelligence shining out of our eyes. We're moving around as God on two legs. So you can look at the human being and stand back from all the apparent imperfections and everything and just say, that's a marvelous thing there. Even the body is a marvelous thing. Can nature alone create something like that? There must be a deeper intelligence that's putting all this together. And that's just the bodily level. Talk about the psychological level, and you go into proofs of their own, you see, that aren't necessarily philosophical anymore. They're just obvious. Mankind is God walking around on two legs. That's how Vivekananda put it. Oh, and I see you haven't learned that yet, he said when he came here to the West. When you do, then the world would be a much better place for all of you. Now, to finish, as we have come to an end, the Panchakarana process in fives comes out in quintuplication and turns into food, light, space, water, and sound. And those are actually ton mantras first. The other missing link that we don't have, and then after that, they're the elements, 5 elements. Ton mantras give rise to the 5 elements. So they have subtle elements, you see, like subtle earth in your dream state tonight, subtle fire, subtle sun. All those are kind of ideations first, then they become matter. Or objects are just thought concretized, as Holy Mother told us. So she's aware of the Pancha Karana process. Akasha has to double there for both air and water, because there are only in this picture 4. But then looked at Shatsampati a little bit, the 6 Sama, Dhamma, Upariti, Titiksha, Samadhana, Shraddha, right? The 6-fold wealth, storing up your treasures in heaven, and ending, beginning with Viveka Vairagya and ending in the true desire for freedom. That's Shatsampati and the 4 treasures and 6 jewels. These are actually the 6 jewels part of it. Over here, Purusharthas, the 4 fruits of life, we already covered them. That is Dharma first, there, and then you can get legitimate wealth, legitimate desire, fulfillment, and moksha. Actually, Mother gives you moksha at the end of your lifetime if you start with Dharma. It's just a given. Beautiful system, all on its own. Foundation of pillars here, you might say. I think that's it. We looked at all the even new additions in that chart. Although if I show it next week or in Hawaii, I might see a few more, and I'll give you a quarter this time instead of a nickel if you see them. So I think we should end here with a chant, but join us for our puja tonight here if you're in Portland area, or for class tomorrow live streaming at the same time, and we'll look at some of these bijams and a few teachings associated with Mother's great reality of wisdom and intelligence. Om Sato ma Sadgamaya Tamaso ma Joytirgamaya Mritchor ma Amritam Gamaya Abira Bira Mayeti Rudrayate Dakshinamukam Tenamam Pahinicham Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Lead us from darkness to light, from lower truth to higher truth, from the unreal to the real, and from the illusion of death to eternal life. Reach us through and through, O Lord and Mother, with thy sweet and benign presence. Om, peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, may peace be unto all. Om Hari Om.